So today we're gonna have more fun. We're gonna actually do a tattoo. We're just gonna do the line work. We're gonna pay attention to operating and saturating a clean line, using a round shader, using a round line. As you can see right in front of us, we already have a setup. I'm not gonna waste time showing how to set up again. There's a video specifically for that. I've also taken the time to clean my own skin and shave it where I'm gonna be tattooing so we can get right to it. I'm also gonna show you a different method of making a stencil today. So you'll have to excuse me for a little bit of an awkward setup today, and also I don't have a lot of available skin to be doing a tattoo, so we're just gonna go ahead and use this. You'll have to excuse me because I don't have a lot of available skin to be doing a tattoo, but I'm gonna be making the stencil on the clean skin. Just a real simple little Viking symbol like that. Maybe I'll do another one. I'll show you guys how a liner works as well. So I'm just gonna put those together. I'm gonna let them dry just like a stencil. Give it about 15 minutes to dry. In front of us today, we have a 7-round liner and a 7-round shader. Both of these will have 7 individual needles. You'll see today how different they are. This over here is a mag. We're not gonna be playing with that today. Make sure to always be using gloves when operating a tattoo machine. Operating with the skin of any kind of way. If you're gonna be in contact with the skin, wear gloves. Proper safety keeps blood from moving between objects. This is the 7-round liner. We're gonna start with the 7-round shader. I like the way the 7-round shader works. Every machine is a little bit different. I'm gonna be running my Bishop wand with a critical battery. It's the Packer. I'm gonna be running it at about 6.5 volts. Talk about that a little bit more in another video. That's why voltage is important. I got about medium depth on it. The needles are standard. They are standard in diameter, standard in taper. Okay, so 2 of the things that are gonna be necessary to get this to properly put ink into the skin is Vaseline, a generous amount, but don't get the outer side too slippery to make it too difficult for your work. You're mainly trying to get it on the tattoo, and you're gonna want one of your cloths. You're gonna dip your machine in the ink and let it saturate the tube. And then when you go to the tattoo, you want to find a zone and move slowly down the line. One single pass is what we're looking for here. You gotta savor that first pass. You'll have to excuse me if I shake a little. This is my own knee. Hurts quite a bit. Pat it. Come back. Drag that line. Skin's getting a little bit dry. Get some more Vaseline on it. Keep the skin moist. It puts in the ink healthier. We're gonna drag that line. You notice I stretch the skin. I stretch the skin with both the palm and the parts of my hand that's holding the tattoo machine, and also the hand that I'm using as an auxiliary. I'm stretching one way with that and the other way with the other one. 3-4 point stretch. Take a look at my line. Do I like it? You can always come back around and scuff in there and just get the ink in there. Try not to over traumatize the skin. Watch the amount of leaking. Watch the plasma. Watch the tissue around it, how red it's getting. If you think you're doing too much to the skin, stop. There's no need to push the skin too far and have everything fall out and everybody be unhappy when you could just come back to it later. You're learning. This isn't about getting on Ink Master per se, right? I bolded those lines. What I did there is I basically ran a line right next to a line to make it fatter. Now, could I have done that with a larger setup? Sure. But for training purposes, this is perfectly fine. Now, that was the round shader. We're gonna pull out our round shader. We're gonna switch to our liner. Just gonna show you the difference between how it applies ink. Both of them have 7 needles. Both of them have the same amount of needles present, but they do it in 2 different ways. This is a lot tighter in the actual shape and sizing, and so it'll put the ink in a much more local area. It's also gonna hurt a little bit more. Once again, don't mind my shaking. Tattooing myself as you should. If you're learning, you should be tattooing yourself. Do not be tattooing other people until you know what you're doing, man. And that's not necessarily to say that you're a skilled artist or whatever. You wait till that, because you don't. Just wait till you know how to do it in a healthy way where nobody's going to get hurt, nobody's going to get sick. Okay? And you know what? Tattooing yourself is fun. You could tattoo your whole body and you could be awesome and not put anybody in harm's way. Take all your training, use it on yourself. It's the responsible thing to do. Now you could see how this shape is a lot thinner, right? Is a lot thinner. This is the same amount of needles. This is a 7 round liner. The last thing I was using was a 7 round shader. They're very different. Now could I sit here and bold this and work on it? Yes, just like the other one. I might as well. It's gonna become a different product though. And these liners can traumatize the skin a lot faster. So be careful when using the liners. Get the line in there that you need. If you need to be bolding things up, try the round shader. Well, you know, there are a lot of ways to tattoo, but as you start, try to follow those more simplistic methods so that you don't get too overwhelmed. Two very different looking tattoos produced with the same amount of needles on each one. The F being the round shader, the B being the liner. There's another setup option. It's called a magnum. I'll show you a little bit about that. Now what we have here that we're going to switch to is not 7 needles, it's 15. I just happen to have this on here from the tutorial earlier. There's a lot more needles. And it's in a much different orientation. I don't know where the camera is, so I'm going to kind of come towards it from the tattoos. Hopefully I got some of that in the video. It's a bunch of needles lined up one by one next to each other like a paintbrush. It comes in different formats. There's flats, there's curves. There's a lot of variations of this, but we're gonna start by turning it down because basically the number one thing that you would use this for, the two things you'd use this for are shading and saturation. Now shading will definitely be its own video, if not many, but a quick little cap on how shading would work. Thinly on the skin, apply the ink, apply it smoothly, apply it softly, not too much depth. There's different ways to go about it. This way with pure black, you don't want to try to put too much depth. Notice it's scratchy, it's not smooth. If you want to smooth it, you turn it down. And there's many other methods that help smooth it, like using opaques or washes. We'll talk about that more in other videos because it really is a lot. There's also hand techniques. Circular motions are gonna hide the texture a lot more, but we're not going to spend too much time on that. The other thing that you can do with a mag is you could saturate. You turn it back up around where you would line. Make sure to get your Vaseline on there and try to do small circles. Small, slow circles. If you're tattooing yourself, this is going to suck. I'm so sorry. Large mag groupings get a lot done. They also traumatize the skin quite a bit, so be careful. You can really hurt somebody with a mag. Make sure you're ready to be using it on other people first. And when you're tattooing yourself with a mag, don't try to go for a blackout. Just see what it does. Promise you'll be able to fix it later. Somebody will be able to fix it later. It's just art. But you can see how smooth, dark that's coming out because of the circles. If I used a hand motion like I did before, that's not quite what's going to happen. You're going to get a texture. Now, of course, everything, if you hit it enough times, is going to become black, sure. But anyways, besides the point, doing those hand motions like I just did, where it's back and forth, are oftentimes more associated with shading or building texture. Now, there is something we could do with a mag that I would consider advanced. I might as well throw it in this video because it's good for people to know. I'm just gonna freehand this because it's whatever, you know. You can line with it. Make sure that it's turned up enough that you're getting enough out of your movements. Try to stay strict. And I have a curved mag, so we are going to get a very organic shape. Do not expect this to look really any particular way. Unless you are changing the angle of your hand, you're gonna get some weird shapes when you move a mag. If you could see clearly, we have two very different things happening here. We have a bunch of lines right next to each other that made that P shape. I actually really like it. I think it looks a little optical illusion-y. But right next to it, from the same machine, we produced a straight black line. The reason being is because the mag is in line. So when used in that fashion, it makes a line. Now, it's also a fan, so if used from the side, you're gonna see a bunch of lines. And if you're careful enough with how you sit it into the skin, you can actually produce lines next to each other. But you gotta be careful with that. That is semi-advanced. If you shake at all, you're gonna notice almost texturing or blacking out. You're not gonna get that clean line effect. And even those lines, clean as they are, they're tiny. That's not super bulletproof. Bulletproof, we'll explain that a little bit in another video, but that's how well a tattoo can handle time, the sun, damage, healing. Anyways, that has been a few things on how to saturate a line. The last thing being that you would take a wet cloth and you would wipe it off. You do that during the process, but not so much when you have a stencil. When you have a stencil, really all you're trying to do is get enough ink off with a pat, right? There will definitely be a whole video for that. That is a pretty complex. Oh, and right at the end of the video there, when I was explaining patting the tattoo, I was smacking the shit out of it. It's on me. I'm just playing around. It doesn't bother me. If you're tattooing somebody else or a client, try to be gentle, during the entire process, really. You should be gentle with how you pat it. You should be gentle with how you wipe it. And that means that you're gonna use as much water as possible when wiping a tattoo when you're done with the stencil. Problem with the water is it will wipe off your stencil. I'm gonna make a whole video on that because that really is its own part of the process, how to manage a stencil properly. But it was super fun. I hope you guys learned a ton. Have a great day.